Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
This the monster from the swamps, Regis Rougarou Program.
Hey, what's up? This is King Carlos Molina, former IBF world champ.
This is Michael, the Bounty Hunter, 2012 Olympian and your people's champ.
This is Charlie Edwards, flyweight champion of the world.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 261 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host Joey Coastman. I'm joined by one of my best friends in the entire universe. It is of course the former heavyweight world title challenger, the man himself, Mr. Fast Eddie Chambers. Eddie, always a pleasure to have you on. How are you, man?
I'm good, my man. How you feeling today?
I'm doing okay. Battling through, still trying to bring the listeners the best we have to offer. Obviously, last week, Layman Brewster, a very informative interview, a very good heavyweight, and what a wild life he lived. It was so just eye-opening. I really had no idea when I first contacted him that he'd be, he'd have lived that wild of a life, and that was just brilliant. This week's going to be a lot more relaxed, though. We're gonna do the review part. We're gonna do the preview part. We're gonna do the news. Eddie's gonna return with the big Klitschko segment, the Lockdown Knockdown. I'm gonna also hit you with a quiz question, Eddie, and we're gonna sign out the show at the very end with. I'm just trying to work out which way to do it, actually. Should have probably planned this before recording, but I think we're going to go into the review part, do the news, do the quiz question, then do the preview part. Then I'm going to bring in the sole guest on this week's show, another good friend of mine, the top heavyweight contender, Michael Hunter. And then the show will be signed out with a lengthy, in-depth segment, like I say, the Lockdown Knockdown Klitschko edition. Definitely, the listeners have been waiting for this. Anyway, let's dive into that review part that I spoke of. We're going to start here in Ukraine at the Eskids, or the Ekids Club in Lesniki. Very hard to pronounce these Ukrainian places. But anyway, Denis Beranchyk, he's now 14-0. He made his opponent Viryal Simeon retire on his stool after 7 rounds of a scheduled 10. That one was for the WBO International Lightweight title. Quite a good win there on paper, really, because Beranchyk, he's still a little bit unproven as a professional, but it's a good win to stop Simeon. Like I said on last week's show, Simeon had been the distance with Scott Quigg. He'd been the distance with Lee Selby. The only guy to have stopped him was Shakur Stevenson. Well, now Beranchyk has joined that short list. Him and Stevenson, the only people to have stopped Viryal Simeon, who's a tough customer. Anyway, moving out now to the Caesars Palace in Dubai, United Arab Emirates. I didn't watch this fight, but a brilliant win for Britain's very own Maxi Hughes. Obviously, during the lockdown, he had a fight with John O'Carroll, former world title challenger, looking to kind of bounce back, really, from his defeat to Tevin Farmer. He gave Tevin Farmer a good fight, John O'Carroll, and we all expected him to beat Maxi Hughes, who is a little bit of a danger man, really. Who needs Maxi Hughes in their life? Absolutely no one. And he was coming off that good win. He upset John O'Carroll on a Wednesday night, and he returned to the ring in Dubai against this undefeated fighter by the name of Viktor Kotochigov. And Viktor Kotochigov was 12-0. It was for the WBC International Lightweight title. Maxi Hughes, once again, the underdog, and he once again picks up a win. A unanimous decision win over 10 rounds there in Dubai for Maxi Hughes. So he is absolutely flying. All credit to him, man. 2 huge upset wins, away from home. So all credit to him. Just maximum respect. Maxi Hughes, maximum respect. That's what comes to mind. Anyway, moving out now to the bubble in the MGM Grand, Las Vegas, Nevada, USA. I've kind of let boxing fans down a little bit, I guess, because I was watching this card on Fight TV, And, you know, I'm watching the card, and I actually fell asleep. I was so tired. I fell asleep just before the main event. And then I end up waking up in the 12th and final round, so I didn't actually rewatch it. So my apologies on that. But anyway, the main event was Emmanuel Navarrete, obviously moving up in weight, fighting for the vacant WBO World Featherweight title. He was the former Super Bantamweight World Champion. He was able to pick up a unanimous decision over 12 rounds against Ruben Villa. Ruben Villa was down in the first and the fourth round. Ruben Villa, like I said on last week's show, a phenomenal amateur, beat the likes of Shakur Stevenson and Devin Haney in the amateurs. Undefeated as a pro going in, 18-0, but he loses. He did kind of, you know, rake some rounds in at the back end of the fight, but it wasn't enough, and all three judges gave it to Navarrete. On the undercard, Lorenzo Simpson, a very promising prospect, 9-0 now. A unanimous decision win for him over 8 rounds against Sani Duverson. However, Simpson was down himself in round 5. Haven't seen it, but I'm hearing it was a bit of a dubious knockdown, so a couple question marks on the legitimacy of it. Let us know what you thought of it on Twitter at BoxHard Podcast. You should know by now. Moving out now to Quebec, Canada, at the Centre Gervais Auto. David Lemieux back with a bang. He picked up a KO in the 5th round against Francian Tetu, who's now 17-4. Expected, really. David Lemieux, 42-4 now, his record. I want to see him in another big fight. I think he's still got a couple big fights left in him, even though he's been going for a long time. There's obviously talks of the John Ryder fight. I'd love to see that. You know, that's a tough fight for John Ryder. I'm not sure I would love to see that, actually. That is a tough fight. But, yeah, Lemieux, you know, you can never count him out. He's always in the fight. He's always got a puncher's chance, if nothing else. Moving out now, though, to Germany at the G-Tech Arena in Magdeburg. Yeah, it was a good fight, really, for German fight fans. Dominik Bozell, 30-1 going in, against Robin Krasniqi, who really and truly, you know, was the underdog, if I'm not mistaken. He was fighting, I believe, on the, you know, on Bozell's promoter's card, if I'm not mistaken. And he's kind of at the back end of his career, so like I say, he was the underdog. A lot of people were picking Bozell to win the fight, but Krasniqi pulled off an upset, a KO in 3 rounds. Robin Krasniqi now 51-6. It was for the interim WBA World Light Heavyweight title and the IBO World Light Heavyweight title, so 2 belts there for Krasniqi. Moving out now to the BT Sports studio in Stratford, London, United Kingdom. This one, of course, on BT Sport. I did watch this card. It was a Frank Warren promotion. Let's start with the undercard. An undefeated prospect. He was 13-0 with 1 draw. Mahib Fazaldin. He got in there against Luke Jones, who's not really a journeyman, but, you know, he's got 6 wins, 3 losses and a draw. But anyway, Luke Jones was able to pull off an upset there. So, it was a weekend of upsets. A TKO in 2 rounds there for Luke Jones. Nathan Gorman returned on the card as well. He moved to 17-1. It was to be expected, really. A unanimous decision over 10 rounds against Ghana's tough man, Richard Lartey, the guy who has a completely bald head and a bright kind of blonde/gingery beard. He's listed as 28 years of age. And, I mean, it's I just don't even know what to say. There's no way in the world this guy's 28. I mean, he looks older than Luis Ortiz by a long way. And Luis Ortiz at least claims to be about 38 or 39. This guy's saying he's 28. I'll send you a picture of this guy, Eddie. You won't believe your eyes. In fact, can I send it to you now while we're doing this? Will that work?
That might work just fine.
Let's try that right now on air. I'm going to try and send you a picture of this guy. I hope I can find a recent picture. Yeah, so I'm going to send it to you right now on WhatsApp, if you can check. So this guy on the right, of course, that's a recent picture there. Supposedly 28. You got it?
Yeah. Wait, you talking about Larty?
Yeah, Larty.
Oh my gosh, he looks He looks like he's 28 years past 28.
Yeah, you're probably right. You're probably right, to be honest with you.
No, I ain't gonna be that mean on him. No, no, but he definitely doesn't look 28. But I mean, look, who knows, man? He said he's. I guess the beard with the color is not really doing him any good, but whatever. But he said he's 28.
Yeah, he's 28.
Yeah.
He's 28. Yeah, apparently.
So am I.
Well, you look much closer to 28 than he does. But yeah, I mean, honestly, the guy. I mean, Jesus, that's a good picture I've sent you of him, by the way. If you'd have seen him, you know, in a kind of more high quality picture, you'd see the guy is. It's actually criminal that he's claiming to be 28. It's just absolutely no way. Anyway, he's a tough guy. He came back against Nathan Gorman, who himself was kind of on the comeback trail since losing to Daniel Dubois by KO. Mm-hmm. Both men had lost to Daniel Dubois by KO. But anyway, a shutout win pretty much for Nathan Gorman in quite an uneventful fight. Larty didn't seem to really come with the same motivation as he had when he came over for Daniel Dubois. Also on the card, Willie Hutchinson, 12-0 going in, now 13-0. He was able to TKO in just one round Jose Fandino, who he had down once prior to the stoppage. Referee Ian John Lewis. A little bit of a premature kind of stoppage, I felt, but yeah, it's a good win for Willie Hutchinson. I mean, I want to see him stepped up. He's a friend of the show. He was on a few weeks ago. I got a lot of time for Willie. Great guy. Very interesting that he's a Scottish fighter based in England who is co-promoted by Frank Warren and Richard Schaefer. That just doesn't happen often. So, you know, they've got big plans for this guy. This young guy, still very young, Willie Hutchinson. He was I believe he was an amateur world champion as well. So, you know, such a bright future, but he needs a step up desperately. And, you know, the only one thing that you can kind of be impressed with this win here was that he knocked out Jose Fandino in just one round when Sergio Martinez boxed this guy in his comeback fight, and it took Sergio Martinez about 7 rounds. But that's really it. I mean, that really is it. Anyway, the main event, I didn't expect it to last too long. I said it on last week's show. Liam Williams, way past British level. He boxed a fighter here who at best is pretty much British level. Liam Williams now 23-2 with a draw. It was a first round knockout against Andrew Robinson, who's now 24-5 with a draw. It was for Liam Williams' British middleweight title. Both boxers were cut when they clashed heads, and it was weird because Andrew Robinson was cut on his eye and Liam Williams seemed to be cut on his scalp somewhere, and as soon as he seen the blood trickle down, Liam Williams just literally saw, excuse the pun, he literally saw red and just went head hunting. Like it flicked a switch. He just smashed the hell out of Andrew Robinson, and the referee, he put him down. I think it was with a body shot in the end. He just absolutely turned into the Incredible Hulk out of nowhere. And, he got him out of there when he wanted to, and it was quick. He didn't want the cut to worsen. He is the mandatory challenger for Demetrius Andrade. And he didn't want that fight going on much longer for the cut to get worse. So he got him out of there. Andrew Robinson kind of took a knee, and then he got back up at about 9.5, and he was annoyed when the referee waved it off. I don't think he wanted to continue. Anyway, that's it, though, for the reviewing. I've flown through that as quick as possible. Moving over now to the news, there is a few pieces of news to mention. I'm going to start here with the fact that Matchroom have announced a card to be taking place in New Zealand, in Auckland, at the Spark Arena between Joseph Parker, former WBO heavyweight world champion, and Junior Farr, who is a guy that, you know of Junior Farr already?
Yeah, I know about him.
Yeah, Junior Farr beat Joseph Parker in the amateurs, so they've got a bit of history there. Junior Farr, as a professional, is 19-0 with 10 KOs. Hasn't really had the big kind of fights, to be honest with you. His standout name probably is Dominic Gwynn. They boxed in 2019, and Dominic Gwynn actually had Junior Farr down in the 4th round of that fight. Obviously,
Wow.
yeah, we mentioned Dominic Gwynn. Obviously, Eddie, you know him very well. The other, that one's to take place on December 11th. It's going to be on New Zealand time, so I think that's going to be something like really early UK time, something like that. Also, Matchroom have announced Friday, November 27th. It's going to be, again, obviously behind closed doors, but the Olympic gold medalist Daniil Yelusinov will be taking on former unified world champion Julius Indongo. That could be quite interesting, to be honest, because Yelusinov hasn't really looked as good as I think he was expected to look since turning pro. And Julius Indongo, you can knock him all you want. You know, he knocked out Edward Troyanovsky in a round. He beat Ricky Burns. Yeah, he got dropped about 27 times by Regis Prograis in their fight. But, you know, other than that, he's a solid fighter. I think he lost the fight to... I think he lost to... Did he lose? I'm sure he lost to Terence Crawford as well. But other than that, you know, he's a decent fighter. He's awkward. He's tall for the weight. That's a real big step up from what Yelusinov has been used to fighting as a pro. So I'm a big fan of that fight, to be completely honest. In other news, I will now discuss Dave Allen. I'm sure you've seen this one, Eddie, you know?
I'm not sure.
October 31st on the Derek Chisora Alexander Usyk undercard on pay-per-view. Dave Allen steps in a very hard fight against Christian Hammer, former Tyson Fury opponent.
Oh, wow.
What do you think about that one, Eddie? That's a big fight there.
Yeah, that's a big fight for him. I mean, you know, with a fight like that, you got to take it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't know how Dave's been training and stuff like that, but I have seen some things of him recently. I think he's been working out pretty good. So, I mean, as long as he's able to give his best, you know what I mean, you got to take an opportunity like that to heart and just you just got to go do it. You know what I mean? It's like right now if somebody tried to get in touch with me and say, hey, we got to fight for you. And, you know, say I can't even think of a name right now, but somebody who, you know, is a heck of an opportunity for me to get back into the, you know, to the big time again. You almost have to take it, even if, and especially if the money's good, you almost have to take it. So it's like one of those situations where, you know, he's in a good position. I just hope he's been training, and if he has, then you know he's got a shot.
Yeah, and all the best to Dave Allen. Obviously, we're definitely supporting him in that fight, but it is a hard fight. Christian Hammer isn't a bad fighter. I mean, I'm not sure I'd say he's fringe world level. I think he's probably kind of European level-ish, but Dave Allen hasn't yet proven to be past British level, so we shall see. It's a good fight. On November 14th, again, Matchroom have been busy announcing fights. They announce another one here. It's actually on the undercard of the triple female world title card, where we get to see Katie Taylor, Terry Harper, and Ebony Bridges against Rachel Ball for the vacant world title. They're all getting it on. And on the undercard, couple of male fights. We get to see Jamie Cox return to the ring against Jack Cullen. That's a brilliant fight there. And we get to see John Doherty, who is supposed to be a really good prospect, undefeated of course. He steps up in class against Jack Arnfield. Another cracking fight. That is going to be a good card of boxing. Really excited. Again, that's going to be November 14th there, live on Sky Sports and DAZN. And the final, I think it's the final piece of news, two other pieces. So this is number one of two. This is again another announcement from Matchroom. It's going to be on the 21st of November 2020. That's going to be the undercard of Dillian Whyte Povetkin 2. We're going to get to see Conor Ben, Nigel's son. He steps in against Sebastian Formella, who, you know, his name might be in a few boxing fans' recent memory because he actually boxed Sean Porter in August and he lost a unanimous decision. He lost absolutely every round. It was a shutout on all three cards. It was for the vacant WBC silver title. But anyway, other than that, he's got all wins. He's 22-1, German fighter, 33 years of age. He's got a couple of good wins though. to be honest, on his record. He's got better wins, I'd say, than Conor Benn has. So it is a step up. You know, his only loss come to Sean Porter. He went the distance. It's not like he got knocked out in a round and embarrassed. So that's a quite a big step up. I think it's a calculated step up for Conor Benn, and he might not get the credit for it, unfortunately, because there's a lot of British fighters we'd like to see him in with, like even Ashley Fearfane's been calling for that fight. So, he's not going to get the credit he would have got for boxing those guys, but it is still a big fight. And the final piece of news is that the Golden Contract finals have been set for December. We're going to get to see this unfold at the Production Park Studios in Wakefield on Wednesday, December 2nd. It's going to be the rescheduled featherweight final between Jazza Dickens and Ryan Walsh. Of course, Jazza Dickens, I think it was, pulled out on the week of the fight with coronavirus. And of course, we get to see the light heavyweight finals as well between Ricards Bolotniks, who just beat Jose Burton, and Serge Michel, who was able to beat oh Lord God, what's the guy's name? That is terrible on my part. I do too much of this, Eddie, without looking at anything. You know, it's all in my brain, and quite often I mess up because I don't practice anything beforehand. But oh God,
Well,
I know the guys.
Honestly, though, that's a good way to be. Honestly, I mean, it shows that you're not only a student of it. And I mean, it's hard sometimes to remember all these things, especially all this information that you're getting. I couldn't imagine doing it myself, but it also shows that it's legitimately not scripted. You know, it's a legitimate show, and this is what happens sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I could remember the guy's face. I could remember who he boxed, and you've just spoke for the perfect amount of time to get me to quickly cheat. And Liam Conroy. Liam Conroy is the guy that Serge Michel was able to beat. He stopped him in 4 rounds a few weeks back. So, yeah, that's all the news. Moving on now to the quiz question. Are you ready for this, Eddie?
Yeah, I'm gonna try, man. I think I've been lucky every single time so far. Let's see how.
I mean, I wouldn't really say you were lucky for the heavyweight southpaw thing because I gave you a clue, but
yeah, well, kind of. Yeah.
No,
Still,
not kind of. I'd say pretty much.
When you said I sparred with him,
yeah, I mean,
there's so many guys I sparred with, but you hadn't
world
sparred. Champion.
Yeah, you hadn't sparred with loads of southpaw world heavyweight champions, but
well, true. That's true.
But anyway, here is the question. It's been sent in by the Mauler, who's been listening for a few years. Good guy. He's the Mauler. I don't even know his name. I just call him the Mauler. He's names himself after Jack Dempsey on Twitter. But anyway, he says, I've got a sneaky question for Eddie. So straight away that piqued my interest. As soon as I saw a sneaky question, straight away I like what I'm hearing. He says, by my reckoning, Muhammad Ali fought in 12 countries that weren't mainland USA. There might be a little clue in there. How many can Eddie name? I believe there is 12.
God. Man, how many can I name?
Yeah.
Not many. That's rough. That is a rough one. Oh my gosh.
It's sneaky.
It is very sneaky. I know he fought, obviously, Manila.
Yep, so the Philippines.
That's not a country, but I mean that's you know what country it is. But and obviously he's fought in Africa.
Zaire, yeah.
Zaire, yes.
Rumble in the Jungle.
Yeah, the Rumble in the Jungle and the Thriller in Manila. The two basic, most easy ones. And the funniest thing about this is my manager was a good friend of his. You know, especially toward the end of his career. Well, after his career, to be honest. And, you know, there were so many stories I was told about this, man. And it's just certain things you listen to, certain things you hear, certain things you don't pay attention to enough. And I guess this is one of those things. But, I mean, anybody could remember those two. I'm just trying to remember one that hasn't been, you know, highly publicized. You know what I mean? Wait, when he fought Henry Cooper, Where was that?
Yeah. Britain. He boxed him in Wembley.
That's okay. Okay, that's another one. I know when he beat him. Now, I'm trying to think. Now, what I'm really trying to do is I'm just trying to think of the guys he fought from. It's not from this country, because obviously there would be a clue somewhere in there. But now that's going to take some work too, because now I got to remember all these guys. Oh my gosh, man! I can't remember, man. I ain't gonna lie. I mean, those are the three I got.
This is poor, Eddie. There's 12 different places. You've only given me 3.
I know.
That is poor.
Yeah. Hey, listen. I got an F on my report card, but at least I'm on the board. You know what I mean? Certain people might not even be on the board, and I'm actually on the actual board, and got one that wasn't obvious, like ones that were into rhymes, like the Rumble in the Jungle and the Thrill in the Middle. I did remember the Wembley.
Yeah.
So wait. I can't. I'm not sure.
I'll give you a slight clue. There was another one that rhymed.
There's another one.
Who came up with these names? It must have been Don King, I'm guessing.
It was him.
No?
What? No, the Thriller in Manila. That's all I leave.
I almost said the other one. Rumble in the Jungle, and there's another one. And I can't remember. It was towards the end of his career, I'm pretty sure.
All right. And I know it was another...
Where did he fight? I'm not checking this, but where did he fight Leon Spinks the first time?
Oh, shit. That I don't know. I really don't know.
Okay, because I want to say I think it was the place I'm thinking of that rhymes. I want to say it was in the first Leon Spinks fight where he lost.
Okay. No, man, no.
All right, let me give you a clue. It was called Drama in...
in Bahamas.
Hey, there we go.
Drama in the Bahamas?
There we go.
I don't even remember that.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm sure that was Leon Spinks for the first fight.
Drama in the Bahamas. Oh, my God. You gave the answer, so...
Yeah.
But
I need to check that, but I'm pretty sure that was...
It could have been one.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was the Leon Spinks first fight, but I need to double check that just quickly.
I'm really sitting there thinking of all of the guys he fought, and it's like, I don't know, man. I really don't know. I mean, that's the best I got right there. I know I'm failing, but they got me this time. And these are things obviously I should know, but I can't. I've been fighting all these years. Sometimes things get punched out of your brain. You forget stuff. You gotta give me a break. Give me a pass on this.
Yeah, I know it was definitely... We got it in the end. We got it in the end with a bit of help. I know he definitely did have a fight in the Bahamas, and it was billed as Drama in the Bahamas, but I can't seem to find what fight that was. I really thought it was Leon Spinks 1, but apparently that took place in the Hilton Hotel in Las Vegas. So Leon Spinks 2 was also in the States. Oh, I know what one it was. Yes, it was his final fight. It was against Trevor Berbick. That was Drama in the Bahamas.
That's it. There you go. There we go. Because Trevor Berbick is... Yeah.
I knew it was towards the end of his career, but anyway, the Mauler has said that apparently, and I'm not double checking this, but I'm sure he's got it right. He boxed in, aside from the US mainland, he boxed in Britain, in Switzerland, in Japan, in Ireland, in Canada, in Indonesia, in Zaire, in Malaysia, in Philippines, in Puerto Rico, in Germany, and in the Bahamas. So he said it.
I was going to Malaysia. I remember hearing something about that.
Yeah, I remember when he was saying, I can't remember who. I think he was talking about Joe Frazier at the time, and he was saying he didn't go to Malaysia, he didn't go to Indonesia. He was naming all these places where he didn't go there, and I did, and he's not a champ and all that kind of stuff, but.
He's not champion of the world. Yeah, you can't be champion of the world. You don't travel the world and all that.
Something along those lines. But
something like that.
But yeah, he says it'll be interesting to see how many he gets, and the answer was you got 3, which was
3 without help and 1 with help. But that
don't try and claim 4 already. Don't claim 4.
No. I said 3 without help and 1 with basically giving me the answer. And so that's all I had.
Anyways, moving on. Go on.
No, what I was gonna say was, it's like a lot of these things that happen current fighters, like, to be honest, I wasn't really old enough to know about him, you know what I mean, watching him as I grew up, so I couldn't really say. Like, his last fight was, I think maybe before I was born or was after. I know he fought Trevor Berbick in the 80s. Was it 81? Or I can't remember the exact date. It's 81, so that was a year before I was born. So, like, my boxing career has been, you know, like, I really started to really focus into boxing. I always watched it because my dad was so big into it, but I really started focusing so much into it, you know, as a early teen.
Eddie.
And then I really started.
Just take the L, baby.
Oh, I'm taking L. Oh, the L. Hey, look. Man,
listen, don't try and talk about the year you were born. I wasn't born until over a decade after this happened.
That's true. But fighters are thinking about their careers, not others. So I don't even. So give me a pass. All right. The truth is, I should have known it. But that's okay. Next time, you got me this time.
Okay.
I'll get back on the board next time.
We need to start doing a scoreboard, like 1-0 to the listeners, or something like that. We should do. Anyway.
Yeah, we could do that.
We should.
Right now it's 3. I'm 3-1 right now. So
3-1.
Well,
this is the third question you've had. You're
2-1.
You're 1 and. You're 1 and 2 with no clues. You're 1 and 2.
No, I'm 2-1. Remember, I got the last one.
Yeah, you got the last one, but the first one I had to help you with the heavyweight thing. You lost the first one, you won the second one, and you lost the third one. You're 1 and 2.
Yeah. 2. You mean 1 loss, 2 wins? So
no, I gave you a clue. That didn't count.
What? 1 and you said I won 2.
No, I said you're 1 and 2. I mean, that's your record: 1 win, 2 losses.
How I got 2 losses, man?
Because you needed help with the first ever question. You sparred the guy.
Hey, man. When you fight, you got a trainer. The trainer helps. So sometimes you get lucky. I mean, not lucky. Sometimes the advice of the trainer, you get wins like that. So come on, man. Help me out. Give me at least half point or something.
Hey, listen. if I'm a trainer, I'm getting a percentage, and you're not giving me a percentage. I don't want any percentage of the L's you've been taking.
Oh my God! I guess 10% of nothing is nothing, huh? All right, I guess.
Anyway, moving on, because I hope we didn't bore anyone to death there. But moving on to the preview part of the show, we're going to start here in a very odd location. We're going to start here in Tanzania at the Kiko Mbembini ground. We get to see Britain's very own controversial flyweight, I think he is. I'm not quite sure where he's fighting at in terms of weight these days, but Prince Patel, very controversial. 23-1 with a draw. This one is for the vacant WBO Africa Super Flyweight title and the vacant WBO Global Super Flyweight title. He takes on Innocent Everest, who's 10-1 with 2 draws. That's over 12 rounds. He actually, his sole defeat, Innocent Everest, came to Prince Patel just over a year ago in May of 2019. So they're getting on a pointless rematch. Prince Patel stopped him in the second round back then. So not sure why we're getting a rematch, but it is what it is. Moving out now, this one takes place tomorrow also. It's at the White Sands Treatment Center in Plant City, Florida, USA. Just one fight really to mention. It's kind of gone under the radar. Ryan Martin. It's another kind of fight on his comeback trail, if you like. I think he's had one fight since his loss to Josh Taylor about 2 years ago now. He's been quite inactive since then. But anyway, his record is 23-1. It's a 10-rounder against Hevinson Herrera, who is 25-18 with a draw. Moving out now to the East of England Arena in Peterborough, Cambridgeshire, United Kingdom. It's a good card, really. We get to see Joe Laws, who's 9-0, obviously very well liked in the Newcastle area, He's in a 6-rounder against Rylan Charlton, who's 5-0 with a draw. I wouldn't have minded if it was Rylan. Forgot the guy's name. I'd like to see him in there with someone like Joe Laws. Is his name Rylan Clark? I don't know. Anyways, Thomas Patrick Ward, honestly, a brilliantly talented fighter, 29-0. Absolutely no idea why his record's being further padded every single fight. He is ready for a big fight. I'm not sure what's going on. He's in against a decently tough guy, Thomas Asomba, who was in the ring with Sonny Edwards a few weeks ago. Thomas Patrick Ward should probably win. He's not a big puncher. He should win on points. But Thomas Asomba's a tough guy. But this is going to be Ward's 30th pro fight. He shouldn't be boxing guys that have a record of 10-6, even if Asomba is better than his record suggests. What is he doing still having these fights? I don't understand what they're doing with this guy. Kez Ashfaq, 8-0. He's in a 10-rounder against Mark Leach, who's 14-1 with a draw. Then moving up the card, Peter Fury trains obviously this lady here, Savannah Marshall, 8-0 as a professional. This one is for the vacant WBO World Female Middleweight title. She takes on former world champion Hannah Rankin, who's 9-4. It's over 10 2-minute rounds. Obviously, Hannah Rankin, former opponent of Clarissa Shields. Marshall and Clarissa Shields have got tons and tons of history in the amateurs. Savannah Marshall, like I said before, the only girl ever to have beaten Clarissa Shields in a ring, amateur or pro. So all the best to Savannah Marshall and Peter Fury. I hope that Peter Fury can lead one of his boxers to another world title. He is, he's kind of, since parting ways with Tyson, I don't think his luck has been too great. So I'd like to see things improve for him. And topping the bill, I smell possibly a bit of an upset, to be honest here. Lewis Ritson, the home fighter, 20-1. Obviously, his one loss came to Francisco Patera, who is kind of like European level at best. He gets in with former world champion Miguel Vasquez, who's 42-9. That one is for the vacant WBA Intercontinental Super Lightweight title. 110% it's going to be Lewis Ritson's toughest fight, you'd have to say. And yeah, if he shows up like he did against Patera, then he will lose, and probably lose quite badly. We have to say that Lewis Ritson has never boxed, as a pro anyway, without the hugely impressive backing of the Newcastle fans. He fills up arenas. There's going to be no crowd. There's going to be no atmosphere for the first time in one of his fights for a long, long time. Will that play a factor? I think it could do. He's coming off a brilliant win, probably his career best win against Robbie Davies Jr. in a great fight that almost to the day would be a whole year out the ring. Miguel Vasquez, obviously, he's at the back end of his career as well. And obviously quite older, 6 years older, and he hasn't had the best run of recent times. He's got a loss to O'Hara Davies, but everyone knows, including O'Hara Davies, that he shouldn't have lost that night. And since then, he's lost one fight to an undefeated Kazakh fighter who I think was quite a decent amateur. But other than that, he's a tough guy. He's only been stopped twice in his career. That was to Josh Taylor in 9 rounds, and to the South African fighter Talani Mbenge, who we still don't know too much about, because Mbenge's one loss came to Formella, who we mentioned earlier is going to be fighting Conor Benn. So it's a nice few names in the mix there. But yeah, anyway, Miguel Vasquez, I'm not sure what the odds are, but it's worth a punt on him. I hate to say it, I really like Lewis Ritson. He turned his life around. Before he got into boxing, he was working in a bleach factory, I think it was. He had a baby on the way, if I'm not mistaken, and things weren't working out for him financially. He turned to boxing, and he hasn't looked back. And he's been brilliant. And moving out to a card that takes place on Sunday. I'm going to move back to Saturday, of course, but I'm going to just fly through this one, and then we're going to go to the big one in the bubble in the MGM Grand Las Vegas. But firstly, let's go here to Sunday evening at the Production Park Studios in South Kirkby, Yorkshire, United Kingdom. We get to see friend of the show, former IBF Bantamweight World Champion, was he bantamweight or was he super bantamweight? Can't remember off the top of my head. I think he was bantam, wasn't he? I think. Or was he super flat? I can't even remember. Paul Butler, 31-2. He's in an 8-rounder against Ryan Walker, 11-2. Again, when I had Paul Butler on, he couldn't understand why he was still having these fights against guys way below his level. And unfortunately, it's another one of them over 8 rounds. Michael McKinson, the undefeated prospect, 18-0. Very good fighter. He's on the bill against an undefeated guy by the name of Martin Harkin, who's 13-0. And topping the bill, Jay Harris, 17-1. I don't think he's boxed since his loss for the WBC flyweight world title against Julio Cesar Martinez of Mexico. This one's for the Commonwealth flyweight title against Marcel Braithwaite, who's 9-2. One of those losses could have been his last fight, actually. It was back in December of last year against Sonny Edwards in a good fight at the Copper Box. I was there for that. Jay Harris, I want to see him hopefully win that fight and push on. He really is quite a good fighter, Jay Harris. I think he could potentially be the next Welsh world champion. But anyway, getting on to the big one, it's for the WBA, IBF and WBO world lightweight titles. It is a unification. Vasyl Lomachenko, 14-1 in a 12-round contest against Teofimo Lopez, 15-0. An absolute, I don't even know how to describe it, an absolute monster fight in boxing, especially for the hardcore fans. We don't always get to see fights that please the hardcore fans more than the casual fans. Usually it's all about, it's all about the money, it's all about the commercial value of each fighter. You know that yourself, Eddie. And we don't always get to see the best against the best because of these factors. There's going to be no live gate, and it's even more impressive because of that factor there. So this is a true hardcore boxing's dream. It's amazing. Both men have decided to take a pay cut, if I'm not mistaken, to make this fight happen, and it's come around fast. It's here. You can watch it, of course, on Fight TV if you're based in the UK or in parts of Europe, maybe even America. I'm not quite sure how it works over there. But anyway, Fight TV is an app that you can download on your smartphone, on your tablet, on your iPad, on your laptop, I believe, as well. Anything like that with an app store, you can download it. And if you use my code, you'll get some money off of the pay-per-view purchase, I believe, and I'll also get something for referring you to them. So Fight TV is FITE TV, and if you use my code, which you can get on my Twitter, if you hit me with a direct message, something like that. Some people tried to use my code before, it didn't work for some reason, then some people have done it and it did work. So just hit me up. I'm obviously happy to try and help you through it or talk you through it or anything like that. And hopefully a couple of you use the code and we can all get it a little bit cheaper. But we as boxing fans have got a duty to almost pay for this fight. It's worth every penny. I'm going to come to you straight away, Eddie. Monster fight. Lomachenko, a scientist in boxing, an absolute pugilist scientist. Teofimo Lopez, superstar written all over him. And I seen someone tweet something a few months ago when the first stages of negotiations, I guess, were being publicized, and someone said, Lomachenko is so good, he's almost unbeatable, but if anyone were to be able to cause the upset, it would be Teofimo Lopez. You can just imagine this guy pulling off the upset. He's got all the ability himself to do it, and I can't really disagree with that tweet. This is just a brilliant fight. Talk to me, Eddie. I'll go on all night.
You and me both. And what the guy said it all in that statement was, if there is somebody to beat Lomachenko, it would be somebody like this guy. You know what I mean? It would be Lopez. Lopez has almost anything you would want to see as a fan and a fighter, even a lay fan. Anyone who's not hardcore can really appreciate what he can do. You know what I mean? He's explosively fast and powerful. He's strong. He's intelligent in the ring. He knows how to use angles and all sorts of things that maybe the naked eye of a person who's not used to watching boxing won't be able to see it. But guys like myself will be able to appreciate that part. Those people will just be able to appreciate the raw power and speed and athleticism this kid has. Obviously you see him out there after he wins fights doing that that running backflip. So that lets you know he's pretty athletic. But, man, it's just you can go on all day about the things that this guy can do in the ring. But then you got a surefire Hall of Famer on the other side because he has that kind of ability. And I just don't really see anybody outside of this kid, and that includes even Tank. And a lot of people, they don't even think about, but Tank Davis is another one who's great, who's explosive and strong. But I just don't. It's just really hard for me to see these guys beating him. As good as Lopez is, and as much ability and as much power and all that good stuff that he has, it's just Lomachenko it's like he sees things happen before they actually happen, legitimately, and literally can move at the right time almost all the time. You know what I mean? He's almost sometimes just invisible in the ring. Like if you're throwing shots at him and they're just not landing. And he's, once again, keeping his hands on you. He's just super, he's unbelievable with the footwork. There's not many people in history that have footwork like that, where you can stand directly in front of the guy. I mean, inches from him and make him miss and end up on the side of him, behind them, pause. And just in all different places. And it's just like, and not only get in those positions and be on good angles, but to be able to punch from those angles. It's just, there's so many times I've seen him throw shots that you practice on the bag and landed on these guys just like they're a heavy bag. It just looks, it's unreal sometimes to see him. And, I mean, you look at Floyd Mayweather and guys like that who are, some of the best guys ever. Ray Leonard and of course, the great Muhammad Ali and Ray Robinson, all these guys, and you just see that he's right there in the conversation with them, ability-wise. I'm not saying necessarily accomplishments, but ability-wise. And he seems like he never stops wanting to learn. He's always training. He's always working on his craft. He's a special guy. He's a special athlete. I just don't know if Lopez can overcome all of that. You know what I mean? He has what it takes, and listen, at the end of the day, he has a puncher's chance because he damn sure can do that. But it's going to take a real effort for this guy to do the unthinkable in a sense, and that's get Lomachenko out of there, because I just really don't think that even with his raw ability that he'll be able to outpoint him.
Yeah, and I pretty much agree with your take, Eddie. I mean, the one thing is that Lomachenko, I feel at lightweight isn't the same. I don't want to say the same fighter, because sometimes people can view that as he's somewhat depleted or on the decline or anything like that. I'm not saying he is, but he hasn't been that same fighter, I don't think, at lightweight as he was at super feather. Well, that's just go on.
No, I believe what you're saying. I hear what you're saying, but there's also some of that's attributed to the shoulder surgery too.
Yeah,
that he had, which and that can also set a guy back. And this is Andre Ward confirmed it himself too, because he had shoulder surgery and had a fight after, and it was kind of like a half-hearted. I don't want to say half-hearted. I mean, definitely gave everything he had, but what I'm saying is his the performance wasn't where he wanted it to be. I'm not just accrediting all of that to the surgery itself, but that attributed to it a lot. Also, when going through surgery, there's the rehab process. You're out of the gym for a certain amount of time. Even if you're thinking about it and you're watching it, it's nothing like being in the gym and working on your craft and being able to work on your craft. And people overlook the importance of being hot. What I mean by hot is in the gym constantly, all the time. Training, preparing, in camp mode, sparring even when it's not time to fight. Those types of things are what fighters who are at that level do. I've done it, and I'm sure other fighters, most guys who, like I say, are at that elite level do that. And when you're out and you're not sure, it's an indefinite thing, and you're not sure how long you're going to be out, or there's an approximate thing where they don't want you to start too fast because look at how, get back in too fast because look at how good of a fighter he is. Look at all the great things he does. They don't want him to go back too soon and obviously not be able to limit himself to do something, less than what he normally does. And then he gets out there and he gets re-injured. You know what I'm saying? So everybody errs on the side of caution when it comes to, let's get back into the gym and train. And they say, well, how about this? Let's wait until we can honestly say that you're ready to go. And if that happens, you lost a lot of time. You understand what I'm saying? You lose a lot of time, and it makes it a little difficult to come back. And then once you start to hit your groove, and then, like you said, he is at another weight class too. So there's other things that he has to do to kind of get acclimated to maybe not having as much of an effect power-wise on these guys being a little bit bigger, So, we'll see what happens. But I think a little bit of that attributes to it. We'll see what happens when he gets in there on Saturday.
I mean, I can't remember when he had the shoulder surgery, but he's been a lightweight for 2.5 years. He's boxed in that time. Jorge Linares, obviously, in that fight, that was his first.
I think that might have been. I don't know if it was that one or after that he had it. I can't remember.
All right. Well, anyway, when he was, when he moved up to lightweight, his first fight was against Linares for the WBA world title, and Linares was able to put him down. It was a really, really good fight. Obviously, he managed to get Linares out of there after that, but he showed some vulnerabilities in that fight there. Obviously, after that fight, he took on Pedraza. He was able to beat him unanimously, but it was way closer than it should have been in the end, in my opinion. Then he took on Anthony Crolla, obviously a UK fighter from Manchester. Crolla never had any chance in hell. No one ever expected Crolla to even make going to the 12th round, and he didn't. He got KO'd in 4. Then he had a really good fight, Lomachenko, with Luke Campbell, who, Luke Campbell is a very well-schooled fighter from here again, Olympic gold medalist, southpaw, absolutely huge for the weight, So, I don't know. He just, for me, hasn't been that same fighter. Whether it's weight, whether it's the shoulder, it doesn't even matter. But for me, he hasn't been the same fighter since moving up. It's not since the shoulder surgery, unless it was just before he moved up in weight. I don't know. I can't remember when that was. But for me, he hasn't been the same fighter for some reason since moving up in weight. That's what I think it is. I actually think it is because he's given away height and reach to these guys he's fighting the best guys at this weight as well. He's not fighting, he's not ducking. That's why when he boxed Crolla, no one gave Crolla a chance in hell, and he did what he did. But, Pedraza, Linares, Luke Campbell, these are some of the best fighters in that weight, and he has had minor issues in all of those fights, I'd say. Teofimo Lopez, big for the weight, he can punch. Lomachenko, again, at this weight has shown that he can be hit, and I think that is down to reach reasons and whatever. And, Teofimo Lopez, if he hits Lomachenko, there's every chance he goes down and stays down. But, I'm not... I don't know. I don't want to nullify Lopez completely, because Lopez is a brilliant fighter, and he's a star in the making for sure. It's early for him, He's still a young guy. I remember having him on the show, the first time I spoke to him, and at that point he was talking about Lomachenko, and I said to him, this is too soon. You don't need this right now. And he basically said, I don't care. I'm here to fight the best, So I respect him for that, but he could pull it off, man. I don't think he outboxes Lomachenko, though. I think it's it is a case of Lomachenko points or Teofimo KO. That's the only way I see it. It's hard to see Lomachenko get knocked out. It hasn't happened before. And aside from that fight that Lomachenko had against Salido, where it was like, welcome to the pros, son, and he kind of got roughed up, and other than that, he's been in total control for every fight apart from when he moved up to this weight. So that's just what I say. But it's gonna be a great fight, man. It's gonna be a great fight. It's one of those fights, I think, your eyes have to be peeled for every single second of every round. It's gonna be highly technical, and from the footwork to the punches thrown to the angles created, everything is gonna be A-class level boxing.
On top of all those things, Joey, you still can't go to the refrigerator for 5 seconds, because you never know at any point. If you do, and it's not in between rounds, that fight could be over just like that.
Yeah.
And that's where obviously Lopez has his opportunity. I agree with everything you said, with the exception of saying, like you said, when you moved up in weight to there, whether it's the shoulder surgery or not, there's different challenges. So him not being the same as he was at the other weight, like you said, is based on those different challenges. He's still been dominant. He's still been himself somewhat, but he has to kind of re-identify himself, I guess, as a fighter, in a sense, when you're now fighting guys who are slightly taller or slightly heavier, or, you know what I mean, who fight slightly different, maybe a little slower, but more dangerous, as you can see with when he had where he got dropped the one time. So yeah, it does present a different some different issues, but all things that if he's great, which he is, he'll be able to handle. Not saying that Lopez it's impossible for Lopez to get him out of there, because that's definitely not the case. He can get anybody at that weight and even above that out of there with a shot. So he definitely has to be vintage, like super Lomachenko, like he's been in the past, in order to win this fight comfortably. So it's a dangerous fight. It's a good fight. I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait.
Yeah, me neither. And I think we speak for every fan of boxing. Yeah, he has to be on his A game, and Teofimo's been talking about moving up in weight for quite a long time. He's had his eye on moving up in weight. He even said it to me that first conversation we had. I'm sure he said something along the lines of, if I don't get to fight Lomachenko next, then I'm moving up in weight. And I want to say that was over a year ago. So he's been hanging on for this fight, even though he kind of said, I'm not going to hang on. He kind of has. I wonder if that could pose any issues. Hopefully not. But on the undercard, we also get to see former world title challenger Alex Salcedo take on the undefeated Arnold Barboza Jr. And this one's over 8 rounds. It's a super middleweight fight here between Edgar Berlanga, who is 14-0 with 14 first-round knockouts. He takes on Lanel Bellows, and the reason why I really like that fight is because Lanel Bellows has never been stopped. So we've got a guy here that's never been stopped boxing a guy who's stopped every single person he's boxed in the very first round. So that means something there is going to happen for the first time in both guys' careers. Is he going to get knocked out? Is he going to go the distance? We shall see. But that's going to be interesting as well. But yeah, that brings the preview part to a close. So I've done the reviewing. We did the news. Eddie had his tough quiz question, which he took L's on, baby. And then we did the previewing. Just before we wrap this up, I'm going to bring in our sole guest on this week's podcast, and then, like I say, after that, Eddie will finish the show with the cherry on top of the icing with the Klitschko Lockdown Knockdown segment. It's back. It's been a few weeks absent, and it's back big. But anyway, like I say, just before we do that, it's now time to welcome our sole guest on this week's podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the top heavyweight contender, the people's champ himself. It is, of course, Mr. Michael Hunter. Mike, welcome back on the show, my main man.
What's going on? Glad to be back.
Always a pleasure having you on. So, Mike, we last caught up interview-wise back in January. Obviously, at that time, it was all still very fresh after getting that controversial draw against Povetkin in Saudi. Since then, news broke that your contract with Matchroom had expired. Eddie Hearn had said that without crowds for boxing, it would have been very difficult to pay you the money you demand. Do you feel that's an accurate description of how things fizzled out, Mike?
Yeah. The COVID and everything happening, them spending a lot of money in the last few year, I think that everybody, kind of got caught off guard, and they just had to reconstruct and kind of do some things that they weren't expecting. And I was, one of those. I don't think they were totally planning to let me go, but with all the situations that happened, I was, one on the bottom of the pond. So.
And since then, you kind of disappeared into the wilderness a little bit. Obviously, went back to the States. You were off Sky Sports and DAZN. Povetkin, who everyone knows shouldn't have even been blessed with a draw against you. He should have been served up a big juicy L. He goes on to box in a big event, headlining a pay-per-view against Dillian Whyte back in August. If I'm not mistaken, Mike, were you one of the few people favouring Povetkin to win before the fight?
Yes, I did. I kind of predicted a knockout. Not that I was wishing it upon him, but I was just calling it how I see it. And I think it might history might repeat itself.
Yeah, because I was going to ask you what you actually made of the fight itself. Obviously, Povetkin was down twice. A lot of people have a lot of mixed opinions on the rounds prior. Some people thought that Whyte was in full control. I didn't see that, if I'm being honest. And then, Povetkin goes down twice, and then, of course, he picks out surely one of the contenders for knockout of the year against Dillian Whyte.
Right.
So
man, that was a decade. That's a decade knockout. Like that's one of those knockouts you want. Every time you knock somebody out, you want it to be just as sweet as that. So. That's going to go down for a long time. Go on. No, I was just going to say, I know that you're in pursuit of that rematch still against Povetkin, and as you said, it seems like he's kind of tied up for the time being. He's got the rematch with Dillian Whyte set for November 21st. I was going to ask your thoughts on that rematch. You said history might repeat itself. It's not a long time after that first fight. It's only just under 3 months to the day. Do you think it's too soon? Or do you think it doesn't really matter when the rematch happens anyway? No, I think it is. I think it is too soon. But see, it's kind of it's a little twist here because I think it's too soon when for Dillian Whyte. But I also understand where Dillian Whyte is coming from, where you want to get that back right away because there is no so. On a fighter's aspect, I do see where he's coming from, and I don't fault him. I actually like it. I honor him for wanting to take that fight right away. I think that's that shows that he has that fighting nature. But on the other hand, that this is a very dangerous situation for him in his career. But. He's made some decent money, and he'll still have some fights out there, even if he goes out again in the same fashion. But he can. I think he can right his wrongs as well. I gave Povetkin the first 2 rounds, but Dillian Whyte obviously won the last 2 rounds bigger than he lost the first 2. So I think he was ahead in the fight, maybe ahead in the fight. But it's still a fight. Povetkin is very crafty, and he's always going to be able to get his shots off at some point. So that's what he's good at. He's known to do that. To get his shots off. And we were just hoping that Dillian Whyte was going to be able to take that. We know that he always gets hit too. That's another thing is he always usually gets stunned in one of the fights, either win, lose, or draw. He's always getting stunned. So I think it was just a matter of will he be able to take it? And will he be able to dish it out more than he's going to be able to take it? And I think that's the same nature we have in this situation, that if we're going to see the similar fight. It's just that, it's just like almost a roll of the dice. Anything could happen.
And obviously it's being reported that Fury Wilder 3 isn't going to be happening. Bob Arum has now said Tyson would like to box here in Britain in the early part of December. Bob Arum named a short list of 5 potential opponents. You were one of those 5. I'm guessing you were surprised that they named you, Mike, because not a lot of heavyweights they wouldn't dare say your name.
Who named me?
Didn't Bob Arum name you, no?
Actually, somebody else told me that. I didn't hear it.
Do you know what? I've got to be honest. It's lazy on my part. I didn't listen to it, but I've heard that he listed 5 names and you were one of the 5. I'm sure of it.
And I actually, somebody did tell me that as well. So that's actually very exciting too, though. I wasn't, like you said, I wasn't really expecting it to even get that far. So, that's all good.
Yeah, and
I like it.
And how bad do you want that fight, Mike? I know we've spoke about it in the past, obviously, but at that point it wasn't a realistic possibility. Obviously, if his promoter is naming your name, that's a big thing. And it's a bit of a stupid question, really, because I already know the answer to this. But would you travel back to the UK for that fight in December? Is that enough time?
Man, I'll be over there before him. I'll just fly over there right now and just enjoy my little vacation and fight.
And again, of this,
I have the best time of my life.
of this short kind of list that Bob Arum's put out, I know that you were on it. Ajit Caballel was on it. Oscar Rivas was on it, a guy you know really well. Charles Martin was on it, and I believe the other name was Effie Ajagba. Who, in your opinion, if you're removed from that picture for perhaps being the riskiest fight of the 5, who out of the remaining 4 do you feel gives Tyson the toughest fight, Mike?
Oh man, that's Caballel, Ajagba, me, who else?
Charles Martin and Oscar Rivas.
Charles Martin. I think maybe Oscar Rivas. I think Oscar Rivas
Okay.
should get the fight.
Okay.
He's probably the most. I feel like he has the most pedigree. You know, he's done the most. You know, he has the most respect when it comes to the rest of those guys right there.
Okay.
Fought Dillian Whyte. You know, he's knocked him down.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, there we go. So, hopefully we do get to see you in the ring with Tyson Fury, Mike. It's not just myself saying that. A lot of the kind of top, journalists, boxing journalists over here have been saying that you should get this fight. You deserve this fight. You'd bring the action in this fight. And guys like, you're not going to probably know these guys by name, but, big boxing reporter guys like Gareth A. Davies, probably one of our most famous journalists over here when it comes to boxing. He says you should get the fight in an interview I saw yesterday. We've got Steve Lillis saying the same thing, I believe. Lots and lots of guys. So hopefully we get to see that fight. And I've seen various polls out there, and people are saying, who do you want to get the fight? And you're winning all these polls. So hopefully we get that. Obviously, nothing is really happening. Yeah. Nothing's really set in stone just yet, Mike. So it's a bit of a strange time for me to interview you. Usually we do something if something's locked in, and it's not right now. But just before I let you go, Mike, it's always a pleasure catching up with you. If you've got any closing words just to your supporters over here that love you to death, what is the message? It's been 2 years this week since you came over here and invaded York Hall, baby.
I know. One thing is, stay a lookout for me. I know I haven't fought in a year. There's a lot of stuff that's been happening. But when I come back, I'm going to come back very strong and very consistent. My plan right now is to find a way where I will become consistent, and the fans and I'll be able to also travel. It won't just be, I'm stuck back over here. I'll be able to travel and fight wherever, and let the fans, come see me entertain, you know what I'm saying? So keep a lookout for me, that's all.
Okay, Mike, excellent stuff, my man. Listen, it's always great speaking with you. I hope that we can catch up again when something is locked in at some point, whether it's Tyson Fury, whether it's another option. Let me know, and we'll definitely have you back on when that happens. God bless you, and we'll speak again soon.
All right, yep, likewise. Thank you.
Okay, and now it is time for the return of the Lockdown Knockdown segment, which has been really good for our listeners. A lot of good feedback about it over the weeks. We've done many episodes, obviously, of it, and it's been, I want to say, probably about a month without it. So it's good to have it back here, Eddie. And it is the big one. It is March 20th, 2010 for the IBF, WBO and IBO World Heavyweight titles. Wladimir Klitschko, the champion. You were in the away corner in Germany, in Dusseldorf. Where are we going to begin here, Eddie? Where are we going to begin?
Well, let's take it right after the Alexander Dimitrienko fight, leaving Germany victorious, super happy, top of the world, feel like I can beat anyone. You know what I mean? In most instances, you would think that. Well, no, you would think, and I thought and I felt that it was a foregone conclusion that regardless of how great that this guy Klitschko was, I'm better. You know what I mean? And that's how we're supposed to think, and don't get me wrong. The person that I am never lets me get too high and mighty in my own thoughts. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm going to just do this or I'm going to do that. There's always a bit of nervousness. There's always a bit of respect, a great bit of respect for who I'm facing. And that's what always keeps me, makes me, I don't want to say great, but makes me good. It always keeps me, keeps me focused and makes me train hard. And obviously this was no different. But, I had a good time in Germany, with the win with Dimitrenko. And it was just, like I said, when I got back home, I was so excited about not just the idea of being in a title fight, or being because at that point I was like, oh, the best fighter, the best heavyweight in America. You know what I mean? And it's like a hell of a thing to walk around with that kind of. It's not even, don't even think about it as pressure. It just feels good to be the best. You understand what I'm saying? I'm in the conversation with the top four, I was in the top five, top three heavyweight, top three or top four heavyweight in the entire world. Behind two of them were two Hall of Famers, which was Wladimir and Vitaly Klitschko, and then there's Povetkin, and then me. And BoxRec had us kind of flip-flopping because I had been more active and I've been fighting other, higher level, I guess, competition at that time, with me beating Dimitrenko. So it kind of like gave me a little edge up at time, a leg up, and then sometimes he would be up, and just how the point system works or whatever. But it was just an exciting time for me. So every time I sparred, every time I worked out, there was a great level of confidence, the most confidence I think I've ever had in boxing. You know what I mean? And it's just an awesome feeling. And then to feel like that, pretty soon I'm going to be crowned not only just heavyweight champion of the world, but the heavyweight champion of the world over everybody. And I was just like, man, this is an awesome time. I just can't wait to get to it. You know what I mean? Don't get me wrong. You love the time in between fights because you get to relax and enjoy your life and the money and the things that you may have gotten with your previous fight or just in general. And it's nice to be able to enjoy life and, to go around and get the respect, and you talk to different people, they call you champ, they respect you. You love that. And then to be that guy, to be getting ready to go and be fighting the heavyweight champion, it was an amazing time. But regardless of, after all of that honeymoon process and realizing how great that was and how it felt, we still had to work out. We still had to go to camp. We still had to train. I trained at home a little bit, but I mean, it was hard to keep me away from the gym. And you know how much I love basketball, Joey, but honestly, I wasn't really thinking too much about basketball at that time because I was so into what I was doing. You know what I mean? You're always looking at where your record on BoxRec, and you're looking at your rankings and where am I in relation to these guys and what are people writing, and I saw a couple bad things that kind of made me feel a little disrespected, especially with the body of work that I had up to that point. A couple guys wrote, one guy in particular wrote about how it's so ridiculous that a guy like myself who's so undeserving of a title shot is getting the shot at probably one of the greatest heavyweights of all time, and thank God that he's going to eventually put an end to this debacle of this dude being the number one or the challenger to the heavyweight champion of the world. Dr. Steelhammer is going to put the hammer down, and I felt so disrespected. I'm like, and I don't want to curse or anything, but it just kind of bringing it up into me again a little bit when I'm thinking about it. I'm like, man, this guy had the audacity to say something like that. The fighters that I had to fight, the things that I've had to go through, the disrespect that I've already faced, coming from where I've come from, being a person in this position, nobody thought I would be there. Nobody thought I would even have a chance in hell of not only beating Dimitrenko, but beating any of the guys that I've been in the ring with. And for somebody like that, some guy who may have been a fighter in the past or has been a fighter in the past, to disrespect me like that just made it worse. But these are the kind of things that you deal with, when you're stepping into the spotlight. And as much as I hated that guy for what he said, I tried to use it as motivation. But now remember, we're still getting in there with one of the best of all time. So all the motivation, you can have all of the motivation in the world, and it might not mean shit when you get in front of them. So the idea was to be the best I possibly can be, prove all the doubters wrong, and go ahead and pull that money in, pull that title in, those titles, and, become great. Hall of Fame career, Hall of Fame bound one day. Obviously didn't work out that way, but we got into camp like we always did. It happened to be the very same camp that we did for Alexander Dimitrenko. Honestly, I think I had better sparring partners for Dimitrenko than I did for this camp. But I did get a couple good guys at the end. I got Malik Scott came through at the end, but I think some of the guys that I had through my camp, and I understand why these things happen through camp, and it's because you want to make sure your fighter's 100% confident, thinking that he's a world beater no matter what, even if he is already, and he already knows that. You want to keep that high level of confidence going and flowing and just keep it moving and keep everything positive. But I've always learned, and I learned this from my dad, is that if you're gonna be the best, you're gonna have to be challenged by the best too. You know what I mean? He made sure that if there was a guy, if Mike Tyson, and we talking about when I was back at 15 years old, if Mike Tyson in his prime showed up at Pittsburgh and he decided he wanted to come to my gym and work out there for whatever reason, my dad would ask Mike for me to spar with him. And this is when I was 15. That's just how he was. And it kind of, filtered into me. And that's just what it became. So I really never enjoy. I mean, I don't say never enjoyed. Of course, you always you're going to always enjoy, getting the better of somebody. But for me, it was always about the competition and knowing that I'm being challenged and then working my way into a better position and to be in better shape and to be mentally and physically just at the top of my game. And, it's just for some reason, that's what really drove me. And when I'm in there, and when I was in there training and preparing for these fights, for this fight in particular, I didn't feel like I got that as much, but I was thinking that maybe I'm just that good, now. So you try to get yourself that little boost by saying stuff like that, but or thinking things like that. But I don't know. It obviously didn't help us so much anyway. But I trained really hard. I was probably in the best shape I've ever been in my entire life. And I'm going to talk a little bit about. I'm going to say I'm talking about. I'm just going to mention it. But I felt great with Peter when I was over there with Peter. I felt unbelievably strong and solid. And aside from that, this camp that I'm talking about with Wladimir is the best that I've ever felt. No. Yeah. That was probably the best I've ever felt, strength-wise and all combined, with the exception of Peter Fury's camp. And another mention, I'm sorry, when I fought Tomas too, I felt great in that fight. But and I trained really hard. The running was good. The strength, everything that I was doing was just on another level. So going into that fight with Wladimir, I really felt almost to the point where I just felt like it was going to happen. I was going to beat him. I was going to be heavyweight champion of the world. There was almost no negative thoughts, no worries. So I'm getting in great shape. I'm preparing. I'm on time as far as with how I feel with the process of training and the sparring and everything was feeling like almost too perfect. But it's like I said, it was good and I was happy with it. But so we get through the camp. Everything's been good. I was training really hard, sparring. Like I said, I was doing great in sparring. We actually had I wanted to mention Malik Scott came in for the last few days of sparring, and we put him on the end because a lot of times you want to have speed at the end of your sparring session when you're kind of feeling tired. So it kind of keeps your senses like heightened. You know what I mean? If you got a fast guy throwing shots at you, when you're tired, you're going to have to, keep your not only just your conditioning, but your wits about it. You know what I mean? You got to be on your P's and Q's even when you're tired. So it kind of forces you into that kind of focus, that hyper focus. So it was good to have him. And to be honest, I think of all the guys we had, he was obviously the best guy we had, and we had him late, and we only had him for a couple of weeks. And that was really the first time in that camp that I really felt challenged. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I've been wanting the whole camp. If I would have had him from the beginning, I would have really felt challenged for a longer period of time. Now, his style he's a boxing guy. He moves, fast combinations, good jab, nice, good, sharp right hand, nice counter hook too. But it's not as powerful as a Wladimir, but I'm not interested in getting hit with the power shots in camp, obviously. It's just making me prepare. It's preparing me. keeping my eyes focused and sharp. And that's really what I needed. And to be honest, now that I go back and think about it, it would have been great if I would have had some lighter weight guys that happen to be, if they were a little tall, maybe a little taller than me, some lighter weight guys who were sharp and fast, and to have to try to find a way to keep up with them and be able to close distance with them, with their footwork and their heightened speed and just the pace, their pace as well, would have been good for me to be able to keep up with. Of course, now I'm thinking of these things after it's happened 10 years later, but the idea I felt like would have been a good mix for the camp. And it's funny because, after I got through everything and we were over there and we're doing the weigh-ins and the press conferences and everything that goes along with this whole thing, and I'm listening to different guys, and who was in his camp for that fight but a young Mike Hunter, who I heard was doing excellent, like to the point where Wladimir and them was like, oh, okay, we gonna have to watch out for this kid later, type of thing, and he was doing great. So, and I'm hearing different things and what he's saying and what they're talking about and who they invited to camp to be ready for speed. Man, he had guys from the Crump who were 147 pounders, 160 pounders, 154 pounders in there for speed, because he's figuring, well, I mean, he's going to be taller. I was going to be taller than those guys, but in reality, I'm not that much taller than him. And in reference to him and in size comparison to him, it's kind of similar. So to have have lighter weight, sharp guys like that throwing shots at him, coming from basically the same angle, if he's prepared for that and able to deal with that, imagine him being able to deal with me. And that's what I think he was thinking. And they're thinking beyond just the basic little things. And, oh, well, we're fighting a right-handed guy, so we got to have right-handed sparring partner. No, he's thinking, man, give me southpaws, give me tall guys, give me short guys, give me strong guys, give me fast guys, all kind of different things. And that's the way, like when you're in that point and at that heightened position, you want to be able to deal with anything. And I just wish that I would have been able to have a little bit more input on some of the things in which I could have, but just my mindset, my personality didn't do it at the time. But I would have loved to have more input on what we brought in, because I definitely would have wanted guys like that, some guys that would have challenged me more. It would have had me, I think, a little bit better prepared. But regardless of all that, taking nothing away from the champ, obviously he's beaten guys before who have been 100% prepared, even better than what they've ever done before. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it would have changed anything, but shit, maybe it would have for me, because I feel like my talent level is as high as anybody he's faced in the ring. But all that being said, all these things are happening, and then we get into, as it gets closer, you start to see people around you. Some of these people were kind of around in camp, but you start seeing people who are just like stepping up for the ride, who just there for the ride. They're not the core guys. They're just there for the ride. And, they got a position basically there. They're basically, they're in charge of this or they're in charge of that. They got cameras. They got, I want to handle your Facebook or your Twitter or this, and I want to be a part of that, and blah, 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 blah. And it's just like, these people all divert your attention from the real matter at hand. I mean, I hate it. And these are things I've always hated. Even from when I first started my professional career, there was a guy who was supposed to be, he was helping me a little bit with my, making me a star, helping me become a star. He's almost like an agent or of some sort to kind of, get me in the public eye. So he had the bright idea of having me sit outside. Now, this is not the Klitschko fight. This is way before that. But sit outside and sign autograph photos of myself. And I'm sitting there like, man, I don't want to be sitting out here. I'm nervous for this damn fight. I'm not even thinking about signing autographs and seeing the fans, to be honest. No disrespect. I mean, that's a part of the game. But I just wasn't feeling. I was basically 18 or 19 years old and I had just turned pro, and I'm nervous. I might get myself killed out. You understand what I'm saying? So fast forward to the Klitschko fight, and these guys that I'm talking about, these Johnny-come-latelys, are bringing fans, no disrespect. Look, I'm happy to have people who are fans and they respect what I do and they want to see me and, but it's, I'm about to fight one of the biggest, greatest heavyweights of all time. And you bring in people from outside in here to talk to me, to sign autographs and take pictures. Man, I'm trying to get my bearings. I'm trying to get my head right. I got to face a guy that can literally kill me out here. Why are you bringing people in here? And of course, at the time, I'm like, nah, I ain't gonna say that. These fans are coming here to see me. That's respect. I love this. Thank you. But I'm like, this guy can kill me out here. Shit, it almost happened. As far as I'm concerned, as far as I know. You understand what I'm saying? Stop. And that was my thing. Like, I always hated having things like that before I've done anything. Because in my mind, I didn't even do anything yet. I didn't win. Why are we bringing fans back here? I ain't saying that, it's not nice that they were able to come in. I'm happy that I could have done that for them. That was probably something they might remember. But the reality of it is, man, and I'm not trying to be selfish, but, I got to get this done. This is about me at this point. Afterwards, man, I'll take a picture with every fan in the arena. But before it, I don't even really want to talk to nobody, not even sometimes my corner, let alone some people who I don't even know, especially when I'm about to get out there with this monster. So, these things happen. Of course, I let it go, which I probably shouldn't have, but I let it go. And, I don't really even remember warming up properly. Like, I don't even remember doing a lot of that stuff. I just remember just throwing a few punches, drinking some of my water, taking my little protein, little things I was taking, little shakes, and just, and just sitting there for I don't want to say hours, but for a while. And I'm just like, man, I was just trying to get then all of these people start coming in, and it was almost like a revolving door. I'm like, what is going on? And I remember my manager saying, okay, that's my manager / trainer saying, all right, that's the last one. And I was like, damn, man, we like 10 minutes from walking out. I think it should have been the last one like 2 hours ago. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on. And well, I don't say 2 hours ago, but you know what I mean. And it was just like, what is this? But of course that fades away soon. And, then I got my brother there, Steve, obviously, and then all the people who were important at the time. And then we start going over things and getting ourselves together and getting prepared to go out there and do this thing and really like try to win. And I remember just walking out. And when I walked out, man, I swear that I've never seen anything like this in my life. I saw literally, it was like a sea, like an ocean of people. Like, it was just people in every direction. There was not an empty seat in the entire building. And this is a soccer stadium. And I'm talking about looking up in the rafters and seeing people packed to the top. I was like, unreal. I couldn't even, it wasn't even about that I was nervous. It was, I just couldn't believe I'm a part of something this big. You know what I'm saying? This is like over in Germany, like a big event, like a pay-per-view event. I've never thought in my entire life, as a kid growing up, even though we worked so hard and we did all that stuff in boxing, I just never thought that, you never really think, honestly, that something could be that big. And then even though most of those people were obviously there to see Wladimir, but they're also here to see me fight him. So regardless of that, I'm a part of something big, and it was just amazing to be a part of. But, of course, once you enter the ring, all that stuff goes away, and you don't even hear or see most of them. So it's just incredible, though, to be in there and be a part of that. And then I remember getting to the ring, walking through the ropes and doing my normal thing, and then hearing them, then seeing the lights go dark, and then that one shining light go down on Michael Buffer. And I'm sitting there, and then he say, welcome to the Klitschko show, basically saying the Klitsch KO show, basically is what they were saying, because they was playing it as that. And even if you looked up at the screen, I don't know if you could see it on on the broadcast, but it was like they made it big KO. That was like a big thing, like, oh, I'm getting knocked the fuck out, huh? And that's what I was thinking. So that's what's gonna happen. All right, let's get this big dude up in here and let me show you what's up. That's how I felt. And as it's going, and as he's walking to the ring, with his music, I forgot what the music, but he's come out to that song a few times, I guess, or a lot of times.
Red Chili Peppers.
And, yeah, Red Hot Chili Peppers, yeah. And I'm hearing it, And I'm like, yo, this is crazy. And I'm telling my brother, he's sitting there next to me the whole time, even when we were walking to the ring. Like, yo, this is crazy. He's like, was you feel nervous? Like, he's like, you know what? I was like, man, and we doing all this while I'm walking. I was like, it's not really a nervous feeling. It's just like, wow, that's all I can say, man. This is unbelievable. Like, just to be in there. And how do I say? I was nervous before I got out there, but when I got out there, it was just like, man, this is cool. It's showtime. This is cool, man. This is awesome. I never, you know, like I look at, you know, the NBA guys and how, you know, when they go out and they see the packed house and all that. Well, this is before COVID, obviously. And you see the packed houses and these dudes and I mean, these people and all cheering them on. And it's like, especially when they playing against the home, you know, with the home crowd and all, it's like amazing thing to see all these people that really support this. And you see how it's just bigger than what you're doing. It's just bigger than this one event. And you just think about all of the things that happened before you. When you think of Ali and how great he was and how he sold out arenas that wasn't even where he was from in different countries, like we talked about, in 12 different countries. And people just loved him and just wanted to see him. And it's like, damn, I just wanted a piece of that. You know what I'm saying? I really wanted a piece of that. So I'm getting in there and then when he gets in, he starts his thing. I don't know if anybody ever knew this or knows about this, but when he gets in the ring, he never takes his eye off the opponent. He'll literally stare you down the whole time. And for me, it was like, I've never been afraid of any fighter that I've ever gotten in the ring with. I've been, you know, nervous about the moment, nervous about what might happen and will I be able to win, but I've never been scared of a guy. So him doing that really didn't do anything to me. It actually made me laugh, kind of. It made me think like, well, what is he trying to prove? Like, I ain't worried about this. We got to still fight. So you can stare me down all night long. I don't give a shit about that. But that was just his thing. That was just his way of getting into his zone. You know what I'm saying? And that's fine. And I remember one of the guys, one of the commissioners of one of the states, one in the States, who happened to be over there. I think it was Larry Hazard. And he said, man, don't be looking at, don't be scared of this dude, man. Stare him down. And I'm sitting there listening to him like, I've never been scared of anybody, any of these guys. He could be big as he want and stare me down all he want. I ain't even thinking about that. I'm just thinking about how I'm going to beat him down when we get in this ring. So all that happens, and, you know, they announce us, and it's just awesome to hear, you know, Michael Buffer saying your name, and that happened to me a few times. And I've always loved Jimmy Lennon, but Michael Buffer is so tied to most of the big events. So when you hear his voice, he's just so synonymous with success. It was just awesome to hear it.
That's why he's on the podcast every week at the very beginning.
100%. It's like you can't, you know what I mean? You can't ignore that. As much as I love the way Jimmy Lennon announces, and I've been a big fan of Jimmy Lennon Jr. my entire career. It's always imagine hearing Michael Buffer say your name, regardless, winning, losing, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Well, winning, not losing, but you know what I mean. So that happened, and then the blood started boiling, and it's time to go, man. It's heavyweight championship of the world time. You know what I'm saying? I'm ready to do this. And so the bell rings, and that's when it's off. And I remember the first round, and basically what I expected, and I've seen so many fights of his and so many things he's done, you know, and all that. But I sparred with him before, so I kind of knew how dirty he was going to be before we started. So I was kind of prepared for it. But
he's a dirty sparrer, yeah.
He's a dirty fighter in general, and I'm not trying to say a dirty fighter like he does. You know, in a sense, but it's not like obvious stuff like headbutts and hitting in the leg and stuff like that. But he'll pull your head down
on you and all that.
He'll clinch you and try to pop your elbow and stuff like that. And he's strong and he's big, so you know those things work. You know, he'll clinch you and lean on you and push you back to take his gloves, like he'll extend his arm, his jab out, like, you know, he kind of extends it out anyway, but he'll put it on you, especially if you got a high guard like I did, and push you and then try to throw the right hand behind it. And it's illegal to measure, especially when you're that big and measure. You know what I mean? It should be more illegal when he was doing it to me, because of course it's me. But in general, it's illegal. You shouldn't be able to measure. But he was doing it, and of course we're in Germany. It's his production. It's his management group. It's his promotion. There's nothing I got. The only thing I got is a puncher's chance. And, you know, even if I beat him pillar to post, who knows if I'm going to get that decision or not. And that's how I felt. So I felt like, well, what the hell? I'm to go out here and do everything I can. In the first round, I felt good about it. I really felt good about it. I landed some shots upside his head, some good body jabs and things that keep him. And the funny thing is, the way I started the fight is the way I should have kept fighting. But what happened was, after I got through the first round, good round. Not a lot. He didn't land really anything solid. Just missed a lot, which most fighters have done. And I started to feel into the groove a little bit. But in the second round, and in the first round, I picked him up because he had started his thing where he's gonna lean on me. So I said, okay, that's not happening. I did it to Dimitrenko, and he stopped. This guy, he did it once. I'm like, I'm warning you. I picked you up one time, put you down. Next time, do it again. You keep trying to push me down. You keep doing illegal stuff. I'm going to slam you. So he did it. Second time, put him on his back. And that was what it was about. I'm like, I'm going to get respect. Remember, I told you before, Nazim, God rest his soul, late great. Nazim told me, man, he's like, he had different fighters in the amateurs. And, if a guy was like really talented or really dangerous, he said, man, go in there and foul him real hard. Get him to scare him, shock him. You know what I mean? Maybe he'll never get himself back together. So I was hoping maybe that would happen. But, of course, Wladimir pretty much has seen everything. So he didn't do anything but get up, dust his gloves off, and go back to work. And I think I kind of irritated him a little bit because he damn sure when he had the opportunity, he landed one of the sharpest right hands I've ever seen him land on me. And it's a wonder still how the hell I didn't go down. Because I just and the funny thing is, the night before I had a dream. Like, you ever had those dreams where you jump and it kind of wakes you up and jolts you?
Oh yeah.
I had one of those dreams the night before, and in between trying to go to sleep with Robert Hines snoring. Oh my God, that guy is unbelievable. I could barely sleep the night before my championship fight. But anyway, we're not going to talk about that. Love Robert Hines to death, but he snores crazy. Anyway, but I had that dream. And it shocked me. I woke up, and I'm sitting there thinking, man, I hope that's not no sign of what the hell's going to happen tomorrow. And sure enough, that right hand popped me. I said, boom, and I stumbled back. But my conditioning was so good that I instantly recovered. I mean, like it lasted no longer than the punch and the stumble. I was already back. There was no cobwebs. There was nothing. I didn't see no stars, nothing. It was that flashlight. Everything was back to normal as soon as I clenched him for half a second, and then everything was back. But this is what happens when slight inexperience in certain areas, and it was something like being on a big stage and somewhat being embarrassed, being caught like that, because I never really been stumbled like that ever in a professional fight. And then like trying to figure out how to get him back. You know what I mean? It was always about now how to get him back. I want to land a big shot now. Now forget all the other stuff. I'm just trying to get this dude back. And instead of trying to mount that attack that I had going in the first round and confuse him and do things that I think it would help me win the fight, I start figuring out I'm going to hurt him. It ain't about that. That's not what I was in there for. I'm in there to win the fight, and I'm trying to win the fight. And if I think I'm going to go out there and just try to knock him out with my 205-pound frame, it might not work out as the way I hope it would. You know what I mean? So the plan started to go to hell. So, pardon my language, but it started to go to hell then. And ever since that particular moment, I remember just continually trying to figure out what I need to do. And then here comes the smart stuff that he does, is where he's so well schooled, and then having Emmanuel Stewart in his corner, the great Emmanuel Stewart in his corner in the plan, and then having my trainer, Bashir, who ended up being my trainer later, who's also one of the greatest trainers on earth right now, in the corner, and all that information against what we had, me and my brother and my manager, who even admitted didn't know everything he needed to know about the training process of boxing. Even though he had 40 years in, but his 40 years was in a different position. Management, you know what I mean? Business. He was just trying to help the best way he could, but we just didn't have enough experience in the corner, me, him, even my brother. Even though I feel like if my brother would have been the main trainer, if he would have been the chief second in the corner, I think we would have had a better chance of mounting a good attack, because some of the things I was doing that I had success with was coming from him. You know what I'm saying? And we always talked about what we would do under certain circumstances, and what we would do in certain situations. So we had a good understanding and a good relationship and a good idea of what to do in some of these situations, and a good chemistry with that. But regardless of all that, remember, I'm fighting, maybe one of the greatest of all time. And it just didn't matter. As much as I tried to adjust, the more he would. And from what I'm hearing and from what I saw in some of the video of footage, I mean, it seemed like Emmanuel was getting on his case pretty hard because he couldn't get me out of there because he had a hard time landing shots. Shit, that was just about everybody I fought. But even though he had a hard time, he still definitely gave me some lumps. And I remember just having a whole difficult time with this guy. Like, I just couldn't figure it out. It was just that puzzle that you just can't find that one or two pieces that just makes the whole puzzle come together. You know what I mean? It was just like, it was that right hand set it off and set me on a spiral downward. And I could never recover from that. And then I just remember being in the 10th and 11th round and still trying to figure out like what I can do to maybe change this thing around, maybe hurt him somehow. And then, you start to realize that, look, it's just not your night. You tried, just finish the fight and, we'll talk about what happened. And eventually, maybe you'll get an opportunity again. Of course, that didn't work out the way I planned either because I, get into the last round, figure, okay, well, it's the same as always. He's not really landing much, but he's keeping me at bay, jabs in my head, in my face all day. Okay. And I seen him trying to set up that shot. I saw him setting up that left hook that he caught me with. And even though I saw it and I knew it was coming, I said, okay, I'm not going to slip it this time. I'm tired. I don't feel like moving. The hell with it. I'm just going to catch it, and then we're going to let the bell ring, and we're walking out of here. That's the last thing I remember until I remember starting to wake up. And I remember as I was waking up, and I know people say, how do you remember that? But trust me, I remember like being on the floor, not necessarily seeing myself or even seeing anything after that. I just remember me being still black and me thinking like, I can't believe I let this motherfucker knock me out, yo. Like I felt so disappointed in myself with that. And then right after that, nothing for, I don't even know. It was an unseen amount of time, unthought of amount of time because my short-term memory was lost because I was completely unconscious and my brain was probably bleeding slightly. So I had no idea what was going on until I'm taking steps down the ring. And my manager's son, who was a good friend of mine at the time, was basically consoling me, saying, man, you did everything you could. And that's the one thing that that's when I started to remember. That's the next thing I remember. And then I remember, my cut person, which was a woman at the time, she was a plastic surgeon, saying, okay, you can go do the press conference, but you're going to the hospital no matter what. She made sure that I went to the hospital no matter whether no matter whether the doctor said I was fine or not. She was like, you're going to go to the hospital. And then, so, coincidentally, even after the press conference and all, they still took me there, and the hospital kept me for like 2 days because of my heartbeat, not because anything was wrong with the brain. They were saying it was so minor, the little bit of a bleed that I had, that it was almost non-existent. It was more that my heart was beating so irregular. And that's because they're not used to seeing athletic hearts. That's really what the issue was. But anyway, so high you can be at one point, and meteoric rise, meteoric fall, because that was exactly what I felt like. I felt like, all the work I did, the journey, everything that happened, everything I accomplished was almost for nothing. I was probably depressed for almost maybe like 8 straight months of just could not really enjoy anything without thinking about that. You know what I mean? It just had me so down, even with the money and stuff that I might have had. And believe me, I took a real hit on that. It just was, man, it was the hardest thing I've ever had to overcome. One of the hardest things. There was a couple other things that were really just there was more difficult than that, but that was one of the hardest things as an athlete that I've ever really had to overcome. And to get back in there and think that I was going to be anything again, and with my level of confidence and belief in myself at times, it was just like, man, this is going to be a real journey.
And I want to ask you this, Eddie. Obviously, you were knocked out in what was it, 8 seconds or something left in the round?
Yeah.
8 seconds. And
that hurt too.
Was that the only time you'd ever been knocked out, amateur or pro?
Yes, that was the only time I've ever been knocked down, let alone out.
Wow.
Yeah. The only other time I've ever been down was a sparring session. It wasn't even like I went down from being hurt. It was like he hit me and I was moving forward too fast and went down, and it wasn't really a knockdown. I'm talking about really down. That was the only time I've ever been down. Ever. For real.
And what's your relationship like these days with Wladimir? Obviously, I'm guessing you haven't seen him for a long time, but, you know.
No, I mean, I never had there was never any animosity with, come on. Look, for me to feel like I was going to go in and win was just like anybody else, but I really felt like I had a legitimate chance, and I did. But for him to do some of the dirty things that he's done, and even in the sparring when we were sparring, that's part of the game. There's no ill will at all. Like, in fact, when I seen him, he was getting ready to fight BY, and I was up in New York, and I seen him. He was like, "Oh, Eddie Chambers," gave him a hug and handshake and all, and it was just like, man, it was nice to see him, but it's like, I mean, look, it wasn't like I was going, "Hey, Vlad, let me get your number, man. I'm gonna hit you up. We gonna go and do that." What was he doing at that surfing together? Like, nah, not like that. But no, he's a good guy, great champion, great person. You know what I mean? Real smart guy, and he deserved everything he got. He worked hard for it. He's that dude. He was that dude for a long time, and it's really difficult to stay on top as long as he did. Trust me. And no matter what era it is, no matter what situation it is, it's very, 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 very hard to stay on top that long. And he was special, man. He was special. He's a special champion, no matter whether you liked him, you loved him, or hated him. Same thing with Lennox Lewis. Yeah, so many people hated him, but you got to respect the greatness. And I did, and I always did.
Yeah, no, he's undoubtedly one of the best heavyweights of all time. And, especially when you kind of think that you yourself, who really should have been a cruiserweight, but obviously the people around you at the time, they wanted that heavyweight money, and you kind of just, did what they wanted, and, you almost got there, as you said to me before. You should have never even been in the heavyweight division, but you made all the stops all the way there, and the big one, you almost hit the jackpot. You touched
almost.
It. I want to ask you also, Eddie, do you know, I mean, I don't know how close you sort of saw the fight, but did you ever get a chance to see the scorecards at the time of the KO or not?
In my mind, I'm feeling 121 or whatever, 108, until I got dropped in the last round. I didn't think I won a round, in my opinion. Even though I felt like the first round was good, I still don't think I won it. I think it was like, well, I had success, but, and not just to say that I didn't win any rounds, but I didn't win any rounds, especially over there, and especially it being his promotion, his management team, and his group running things. No way. I had no shot at that. But, and I don't like the whole, it was a silver lining, there was a moral victory in being that you were in there and you did this and you did that, and it's like, yeah, man, but I really felt like I had talent and ability above all in the division at the time, no matter who was there. I really felt that way, and maybe I did, but it just didn't happen. And I always wondered why, and what I did and what I didn't do, or was it just that he was just better, or he was just bigger? You know what I mean? And or both. And I just always wondered about it, man. I just, even to this day, it's like, what if I'd have met Peter Fury earlier? What if I would have got that science that he had, with not only just, the training aspect in the different style that we were working on, but the size and the strength and the things that I really started to hone. And when at that time I was over there with him and Tyson, man, I felt at times invincible. Like, it didn't matter who was getting in the ring with me, I was going to bust their head wide open. I'm talking power and speed. But it just was, it wasn't to be. And then when I did get prepared, and I was like that when I was over there with those guys, couldn't get a fight. And that's just the way the ball bounces, man. Couldn't get a fight. We were even willing to take Ruslan Chikaev in less than a day's notice. Basically, like 12 to 14 hours notice, man. We was going to go over there and fight him that day or that night. Like, not that night, but we was going red eye over there. It was like, I don't know, 12 at night or something over there over in the UK. And we was talking about, man, we'll go over there and fight him tomorrow. Like, we really would. And, of course, they didn't take the bait. But, I was so ready at that time. And it just wasn't to be, man. Some people they just don't get their shot, or just their opportunity goes and they miss it. And that might be my situation.
And, Tyson Fury himself has said many times, he likes to say, a good big man will always beat a good little man. Do you kind of feel like that?
Oh, no.
Go on, what'd you say?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, do you kind of feel like that saying that he uses kind of fits the description of how the fight played out between you and Vlad?
Without a doubt, and it's generally a good big man could beat a great small man, because as great as a guy is, right? It's like, let's look at Lomachenko versus Lopez, right? Say Lopez is able to get him out of there and his size is just too much. But if Lopez was naturally smaller and him and Lomachenko are the same size, Lomachenko beats him probably pretty comfortably, even though it'd still be a tough fight for him. So you see what I'm saying? It's like, even if you're great, we all see Lomachenko as great. Maybe Lopez is going to be great too, but at this point, he's good, he's excellent, but he's not at that Lomachenko resume yet. But maybe the size makes up for that. See, with Wladimir being 35, 40 pounds heavier than me, that size made up for the difference in skill. You understand what I'm saying? The size and power and weight and understanding of how to use it. Because if you think about it, Dimitrenko had all those same attributes over me attributes over me as far as size, and I'm not going to say strength, because I don't think he was stronger than me. I don't even think Wladimir was stronger than me, especially with my lower center of gravity. But Dimitrenko wasn't, he wasn't as sturdy, but he did have those same weight and height advantages. He just wasn't able to apply it the proper way. Wladimir could. Wladimir was mentally tougher. Wladimir understood the game plan better, and he applied it better. Simple. You know what I mean? And that's the difference between a good fighter like Dimitrenko and a great fighter like Wladimir.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, that is the Wladimir Klitschko fight out the way. Obviously, that was the biggest fight of your career, Eddie. But the journey doesn't stop there. There is still a few more chapters to go over, which I'm sure we'll get on to next time. So I'm guessing next time will be the comeback fight almost a year later against Derek Rossi, which obviously was a rematch. And then, from there, it obviously brings us into the Thomas Adamek fight. So am I right in saying we're probably going to go over those two fights next time?
Maybe, yeah, probably. We'll probably go over those two. I mean, maybe we could split it. Maybe we'll go over both. I mean, we'll see. I mean, because to be honest, the Rossi fight, it shouldn't take up too much time, although it was a decent fight, and it kind of played a little bit to how I felt about myself after that Klitschko fight and where I saw myself. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it kind of gives you an idea of where I was, and then with the Adamek fight to follow, maybe we'll do both. We'll see. We'll see what's out. We'll see how much time we have, and then we'll put it into effect.
Okay, absolutely. Looking forward to that. Like I say, Eddie, it's been a pretty long show. We did the reviewing, we did the news, we gave you your quiz question, we did the preview part, we welcomed Michael Hunter in as our sole guest, and we've just wrapped up there with the Lockdown Knockdown segment. I just want to say once again, Eddie, thanks for helping me out once again. Thanks for bringing our listeners another edition of the Lockdown Knockdown. It's always very interesting, and it's obviously, like I say, a big fight, a world heavyweight title fight. There is the ins and outs there. Not a lot of people know about the facts discussed in about the 45 minutes that we recorded in that segment there. So yeah, thanks, Eddie, and The final thing I'm going to do is just sign out with the very end of the show in just a few seconds' time. Okay, and this wraps up episode 261 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Eddie Chambers has been with me for the duration of the show. A massive thank you to our sole guest on this week's podcast, the top heavyweight contender, Michael Hunter. A special thank you also to Aaron from Travelodge in Weston-super-Mare, which is where this podcast episode was recorded. Aaron opened up a quiet and private room for me to operate in, which was extremely generous of him to do so. So a big shout out to him. There has been one or two pieces of news break whilst we've been recording the show. Unfortunately, the aforementioned Savannah Marshall vs Hannah Rankin world title fight has been cancelled because Savannah Marshall's trainer Peter Fury tested positive for coronavirus. Savannah herself tested negative, but due to the necessary precautions, the fight has been cancelled. Both girls involved in that fight are devastated and are hopeful to get the fight rescheduled before the year is up. There is one other piece of news. It's going to be a fight taking place on Friday, November the 27th. Demetrius Andrade takes on Dusty Hernandez Harrison, both guys friends of the show. The fight's taking place, bizarrely, at super middleweight. So that's going to be, well, I'm not quite sure if I'd say a great fight, but it's going to be interesting to say the least. But that is about everything, though. That's everything from myself. I want to say a massive thank you to all of our listeners for tuning into this week's show. Enjoy your weekends, people. Stay safe, and we shall see you all again next week.